During the Mutant Enemy Writers Reunion podcast, hosted by Nerdist.com, David Greenwalt listed the Tim Minear episode, Are You Now or Have You Ever Been?, as the turning point for them really figuring out and understanding the show. It's interesting that, in the same way that Firefly's tumultuous life on TV reflected some of its internal themes, the writers having to work to find the voice of this show about a vampire with a soul seeking redemption feels oddly fitting. Are You Now takes place during the paranoia-laden American 1950s. It's brilliant in its construction, foreshadows a number of key events this season, and shows facets of Angel we have yet to see. And I think, for the first time in his story, begins to clarify an important question. What is the line between redemption and forgiveness?
The greater scheme, the big picture. Nothing to do with
Wesley, Wyndam-Pryce.
There's a lot worse things out there than
It doesn't work in spite of you.
nothing works with us.
Why is it that I'm not on the floor this time?
Take what matters is what we do.
Angel is showing Wes and Cordelia photos of the Hyperion, the mothballed hotel we saw him enter in Judgment. Cordy's obvious joy at being hostess and team caregiver still makes me happy.
No, that's cinnamon.
Sometimes I like to crumble up the Weetabix in the blood, give it a little texture.
Angel withholds his true motivating interest in the hotel, and we get a very cool transition flashback to the Hyperion's heyday. It's 1952, and the front desk is being tended by a squirrely bellman and John Capellos. Yes, I had to look his name up. John is one of those character actors I'm always happy to see, but can never remember the name of. The Richard Jenkins category of awesome actor. The bellman takes a message to a room he's obviously terrified of, currently occupied by... The post-credits opening shot gives us a well-choreographed, panning introduction to the other cast of characters currently living in the Hyperion. Really beautifully designed, with present-day Angel opening the shot and past Angel ending it. Angel returns from a trip to his blood dealer, and Shady Man in the hallway is Shady. In this moment from before Angel meets Whistler, but after he and Darla are Splitsville, he's still drinking human blood. He discovers a woman has been hiding in his room, and this is how we meet Judy. Judy is being followed by Detective Shady, whom Angel tosses out, less to be heroic but more as a means to get rid of her. As he slams the door in her face, we get another cool transition back to modern times. Wesley and Cordy discover that Angel once lived at the Hyperion. Guess that was a mirrorless camera. Wesley intuits why Angel might have kept his history with the hotel a secret.
Perhaps he was ashamed.
Back in the 1950s, Angel hears the sound of a man
A salesman.
he previously heard talking to no one committing suicide, though doesn't pay it much mind. The hotel manager decides not to call the police after a sultry Cajun voice in his head makes him fear the hotel being shut down. Angel, while smoking a hardcore brood, runs into Judy at the Griffith Observatory. A rumor that the neighbor's suicide was a murder starts to permeate the hotel, and Angel, seemingly against his better judgment, is starting to get to know Judy. Judy reveals that she stole money from her banking employer in order to start a life with her boyfriend and has been hiding out at the hotel. Problem is...
Everyone here's got something to hide.
And Judy has been hiding that...
I've been passing since I was 15 years old.
Passing.
For white.
It's just blood, Judy.
Angel agrees to help Judy and hides the money in the basement. When he does, he hears the Cajun voice of bad ideas for the first time himself.
There's something in this hotel.
Back in the present, Angel has figured out the demon haunting the hotel is a Thesulac demon, and they need to render it corporeal to kill it.
You'll want me to research the raising ritual.
Already done it.
In the past, we see him collaborating with a paranoid conspiracy theorist bookstore owner who explains how to put the paranoia demon down. But the situation in the hotel has decayed beyond coming back. Angel Without a Clause's final moments at the Hyperion occur, wonderfully edited between the present, in which Team Angel works to vanquish the paranoia demon once and for all. In the past, the paranoid residents of the Hyperion attack. They descend on Judy, and to save herself from the crowd, she gives them Angel.
Look at his room! Go ahead! Look! He's got blood! He's a monster!
Oh, Judy. As stated by the bookstore owner, 2 ways to corporealize a paranoia demon: by ceremony or through a big meal. There is something about the Thesulac demon I love that I find hard to pinpoint. There are other demons in the Buffyverse with more terrifying designs, or were perhaps more intricate or artfully rendered. But whenever I think about Angel as a whole, the Thesulac demon is one of the first that bubbles to the surface of my memory. He just so loves being a demon.
And you thought you'd made a friend. Newsflash, you had.
He's so happy about it, from the joyful use of that Creole Cajun accent, a subset of Louisiana for the non-American, that evokes more a side character from A Streetcar Named Desire, to that delighted bellow. The Thesulac sounds and speaks more like a man at a barbecue than a demonic hellspawn. That, contrasted with the fact that his chaos is grilled up from the fears and anxieties inherent to any human, makes him a chilling brand of monster. Back in the present, Team Angel kill the Thesulac, and Angel finds Judy, alone in a room, whose fear the Thesulac has been feeding off of all this time. And Judy, let's go. Wow. Where to begin?
We're moving in.
Are You Now or Have You Ever Been is the most confident episode of the show not featuring any substantial Buffy influence to date. From the melting pot of cinematic influences it blends together, to the design of the Hyperion itself, to its incorporation of American history, this episode is a titanic step forward from most of the previous season. Where the first season of the show flirted with its noir influences, Are You Now is an open celebration of them, and somehow all of those familiar elements cohere into a fascinating piece of fantasy storytelling, unlike anything I've quite seen before, that also brilliantly reveals aspects of Angel's character. Generally speaking, Angel is a character divided against himself. Angelus versus Angel, demon versus man, past versus present, agony versus ecstasy. He is a character defined by division and driven by a desire to find some sort of unity, and everything around him reflects that division. From the city where he lives, into which he can only go out at night, to his desire for loneliness and solitude despite the concrete evidence that he needs connections in the world that reflect to him always his best self.
Don't be embarrassed. We're family.
But the flashback sequences in Are You Now present us with an unusual version of Angel, one living passively among humans as a version of himself, curiously unified. There have been previously established tells for the dormancy of Evil Angel. In the first season of Buffy, Darla used the fact that he was still drinking human blood as evidence of a nature he would never escape. But from the moment Buffy showed him that his commitments were stronger than his impulses and that he always had a choice between them, we only see Angel with butcher's blood. After becoming soulless again in surprise, Angelus immediately murdered a woman and blew her own cigarette smoke from his lips, metaphorically tying his evil to the act of smoking. And sure enough, when he reintroduces himself to Spike and Drusilla, he does so cigarette in hand. And here in Are You Now is an Angel who is passive, non-violent, but drinking human blood and smoking. Not so much having unified his two halves as teetering between them and passing as human. Fittingly, noir as a visual tradition is defined by the strict division of light and dark, the lines between white and black. And this episode is steeped in that visual tradition, starting with the introduction of the Hyperion itself. As much as Angel's apartment in Season 1 had a sort of sweet style to it, many of the writers' commentaries from the season involve more than one complaint about the set being too difficult to shoot on, the elevator being way too slow, it was usually artificially sped up in post-production when you see it in action, or the office set feeling a little claustrophobic-y. Once they decided to make the switch from fully episodic to mostly serialized season arcs, the explosion at Angel Investigations 1.0 felt like a statement of purpose, and the Hyperion set feels as ambitious as the show's new direction. Where Angel's office and basement apartment were visually ambiguous with bright light spilling in through open windows and the evenly lit apartment, the Hyperion is lit in hard classic visual contrasts. The lamps in the hallway don't throw light evenly across the room, but instead end in hard lines and shadows. The name Hyperion comes from one of the 12 titans of Greek mythology. Hyperion fathered the sun, moon, and dawn. The hotel itself then works as an embodiment of Angel's character, filled with seemingly incompatible contrasts and with a long dark past that Angel is committed to reforming.
This is a house of evil. Not anymore.
Hilariously, in the Buffy episode aired in pairing with this one, the Scoobies also got themselves some new digs this week. The Magic Box. One of the persistent debates in the fandom that doesn't come up quite as often as what's the best season, or do you ship Angel, Bailey, or Scott Hope? Just kidding. Nobody ships Scott Hope, he sucks. Might be Magic Box versus Hyperion. It's interesting how both sets reflect the themes of their respective shows. The Magic Box is bright and colorful, a new future for Giles after a year year of midlife crisis. For a place where several previous owners were murdered, the Magic Box feels almost comically unaware of its past. The Hyperion, in contrast, is literally haunted by it. Buffy, a show about growing up, would by its nature be less burdened by history. But Angel is a show about being an adult, and our pasts are something we always carry with us. The city of Los Angeles has been a heavily featured influence on the show already, especially in the interstitial smash cuts. But Judgment, with its street joust, and this episode with its Hollywood-type residence and Griffith Observatory sequence, have been seriously upping the ante. The city is, again, another symbol for Angel, a connection he made directly in Somnambulist when he pondered at the evening skyline.
I wonder if anything ever really changes.
And throughout the show so far, we've seen similar sorts of inner turmoil in the city. The haves and the have-nots, its day and night cycle. Los Angeles is also the most frequently featured city in American noir cinema, from Double Indemnity to The Big Sleep to the homage-laden LA Confidential. Are You Now or Have You Ever Been contains more than one reference to films set in the era it's invoking, or to prominent noir features. The Griffith Observatory sequence, with Angel in his red jacket, is an homage to James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause. Judy stealing from her employer was the same series of events that led Janet Leigh to the Bates Motel in Psycho. And Judy's pursuing detective is named after a character in Chinatown, who, like Jack Nicholson, later appears in a scene with a taped nose. The title of the episode is a reference to the famous and ugly time period in American history it is set in. The 1950s are sometimes referenced as the heyday of strong American values. Leave It to Beaver, Father Knows Best, Ozzie and Harriet. But beneath the wholesome veneer mainstream entertainment was painting, racial segregation was at its pinnacle. Almost every state still had sodomy laws on the books, and moral panic was everywhere. America was a country divided between what was considered the culturally mainstream normal and everything else. And in 1949, the Soviet Union had tested their first nuclear bomb, which set off a wave of paranoia and fear today known as McCarthyism. Joseph McCarthy was an American senator who managed to stir a public panic that communist eyes were among us and they were everywhere. One of his favorite targets was Hollywood. During the hearings, it was not uncommon for those called to be asked for the names of other possible communists.
The question is, are you now or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?
If they didn't give them, they were blacklisted, like the Hollywood 10. If they did,
Look at his room! Go ahead, look! He's got blood! He's a monster!
they saved themselves. Part of McCarthy's ultimate downfall came in the form of a 30-minute news broadcast. In 1954, Edward R. Murrow went on CBS and dissected the senator's bully tactics and fear-baiting, ending with a call for responsibility from the American people. McCarthy, he said, wasn't really the one to blame. He didn't create the evil which spawned the blacklist and the persecution. He only capitalized on something which was already inside every one of us. The fault was not in our stars, but in ourselves.
Take them all.
One of the big reasons Are You Now is successful is Judy, Angel's most significant analog in this episode. Judy, in a wonderful performance by Melissa Marsala, is half African-American, half Caucasian, but passing for white.
I've been passing since I was 15 years old.
This is not the first time the idea of passing has shown up in the series. Doyle was accused of passing in Hero.
You wouldn't get it. You're passing. My mother was the same way.
Beyond them both pretending to be something they are not, there are various hints that Judy and Angel are kindred spirits. For instance, in the sequence where we first meet Judy, Angel slams the door in her face. But the way the sequence is edited, the camera pulls back, revealing the face Angel slammed the door on was his own. I think the use of these ugly American historical cultural artifacts would feel trite and inappropriate on many other shows. But since these shows are so steeped in theme and the exploration of important human questions already, it works. Judy's issues with race and belonging aren't simply a vehicle for understanding Angel's. His are also one for understanding hers. If the episode hadn't done Judy justice with a convincing performance and a satisfying emotional payoff, this would have been a misstep. As terrific as an episode of the show Are You Now is, I have to admit things it does well are not necessarily at the heart of my addiction to the series. Buffyverse flashback episodes are of a shockingly consistent quality. Generally, if the episode features scenes of a gallivanting Angelus or a guilt-ridden pre-Whistler Angel, it is likely to be one of the highlights from that season, and Are You Now is no different. But where those other episodes use flashbacks in parallel with and to reveal ideas about Are our characters in current time. Are You Now's story is almost entirely contained in the past. Though the acquisition of the hotel is definitely a vital moment, most of what the tale reveals about the present has yet to be seen. The episode is artful, intricate, and engrossing, but I miss Team Angel and the chemistry that normally flows between them that is sidelined for most of it. In the DVD commentary, Tim Minear said the hardest parts to write in this episode were the modern-day scenes where we actually do see Gunn, Wesley, and Cordy. There are a ton of complex, beautiful things going on here, but all the time spent setting them up builds to an emotional payoff important, but so quick and quiet that if you're not paying close attention, you might miss it. The episode contains two very significant ties to previous. The first is In the Dark.
What do you want, Angel?
I want forgiveness.
And the second is the Buffy episode I Only Have Eyes for You. In I Only Have Eyes for You, ghosts of a murder-suicide couple are living their grisly end through human avatars over and over again. Buffy, who has been blaming herself for Angel's death, is inhabited by the murderer, and his victim inhabits Angelus. The murder takes place, but possessed Angelus, who can't die with a bullet, stops possessed Buffy from killing herself over the guilt, and gives her exactly what she needs in order to be able to forgive herself for what happened. I still love it. Anyway, in Are You Now or Have You Ever Been, the mirrors of Judy and Angel commit two regrettable acts. Judy turns the crowd on Angel to save herself, and Angel, in response, abandons the hotel, Judy, and the rest of its inhabitants, people he could have saved, to a hungry Thesulac. Insofar as she is aware, Judy saving herself led to the murder of someone who had been going out of his way to help her. And Angel knew that the angry mob that attacked him was being emotionally amplified by the ugly, tentacled monster. They may not have deserved his forgiveness, but after all...
To forgive is an act of compassion, Buffy. It's not done because people deserve it, it's done because they need it.
Judy spends a lifetime of guilt alone in the hotel, believing she has done something she can never take back. But just as the bullet in I Only Have Eyes for You was not enough to end him, time and the noose are not either. And in their final moments together, Angel gives Judy the thing he himself most desperately desires, a thing the trail of dead in his wake cannot give him.
Can you forgive me? Of course.
And with that act of compassion, if only for that finite moment in time, Angel is redeemed.
We can deny our heritage and our history, but we cannot escape responsibility for the result. There is no way for a citizen of a republic to abdicate his responsibilities. And whose fault is that? Not really his. He didn't create this situation of fear, he merely exploited it. Cassius was right. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves.